You can draw this in Procreate. Let's create a spooky scene in Procreate. All you have to do is follow this video all the way till the end, because I will only be using the brushes that are already in the app, plus a brush that you can download for free through a link in the description. And don't forget, once you have reached the end of the video and you have created your own spooky scene, to share your work on Instagram and tag me in the image, not just in the description. That way I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see your spooky scene in the next You Can Draw This video. And yes, I'm still using my old iPad from 2017 because it's just a very sturdy beast, and I'm still setting up my new iPad. So in my next video you will see the newer iPad. So let's get started. First of all, our canvas. It's 2500 by 2500 pixels. So if you want to use the same brush sizes as I'm using, then be sure to make your canvas the same size. And as for the color profile, I have set it to sRGB IEC long code, which I can never remember. So if you want the colors to look the same, use that color profile when making a new canvas. And of course, I have created a color palette again, which you can download for free through the link in the description in case you want to use, like I said, the exact same colors I'm using here. Let's get started. First, I want to add a color to our background. You can just go to the layers menu and then click background color. And we'll pick this first color in the color palette, making it all dark. I will go to layer 1. And for the brush, we will go to the monoline brush. And for our color, we will pick this second color in the color palette. And we are going to create something like a bean shape. Let's check the size of the brush. That's pretty thin. Let's make it a bit bigger. Perhaps we'll go for 40%, but just do whatever you feel comfortable with. And we'll make a bean-like shape. Close it here. And once you have the shape, you can drag in the color to fill it. And if you're not entirely happy with your shape, you can just adjust it a little bit by adding to the outside. And then filling in the gaps. And if you are seeing like a little gap when you fill your shape, let me just demonstrate. Let's add a little bit here. If you are seeing a tiny light gap around the edges, then you'll have to adjust your fill threshold. You can hold your pen in place and then drag from left to right to adjust that threshold. So go all the way to the right just until it doesn't fill the entire screen, and then you'll be fine. What you can also do to adjust the shape a little bit, if you are not entirely happy with it, you could go to the magic wand and use, where is it? Liquify. And you can just push and pull some parts. You can make the brush a bit bigger. Make sure that it's set to push. And you can just adjust the shape a little bit, making it a bit bigger. Until we have a nice, a bean-like shape. I'm not sure what else to call it. Alright, now that we have our shape, we can start creating our spooky scene. We are going to create a spooky house, and we'll do that on a separate layer. So we'll go to the layer menu, click the plus for a new layer, and the shape that we will be creating, we only want it to show up in that bean-like shape. We don't want to go outside of the edges. So we will use layer clipping mask. We'll click this new layer and select clipping mask. Now it is clipped to our bean shape, and whatever we paint on this layer will never show up outside of that bean shape. Then for the color, we will go for black. I have it here in the color palette, but you could also just pick it yourself. We will still be using the monoline brush, but I'll make it a bit smaller. Perhaps 10%. Yeah, 10% is fine. First thing I'll do is create a rectangular shape for our house. And you can make it a little bit wonky. Hold your pen in place to let it snap to straight lines, but still keep it a bit wonky. And our house will be placed on a hill. So let's make a hill shape. Just some wobbles going down. And on this side, we'll go to the right a little bit. And you can always adjust the shape later on. Make sure that you fill it outside of that bean shape so that we can fill this shape later on. Then let's make another rectangle on this side of the house. Hold your pen in place to let it snap to the straight lines. And let's make a triangular shape on top here with a flat top. Then we'll create a little rectangle on top here. And you can also click Edit Shape and you'll get these little handles and you can adjust your shape a little bit. I just like to make some wonky shapes here. Then click the brush to continue. Let's make a triangle on top here as well. And let's fill these shapes for now. Just drag in the color into all of these spaces. And remember, if you are seeing gaps, then you might have to adjust your color threshold, your color fill threshold. I'd like to add some little touches to our house. I feel like the house is a little bit too big on this hill, so I'd like to make it a little bit smaller. What we can do is use the selection tool, that's the S shape ribbon, go for rectangle, start here at the top, go down just to above that rock that we created. Now that we have our selection, you can go to the move tool, that's this arrow, and while we have it set to uniform, we can make it a bit smaller. Move it a bit to the side. I like this. Then we can just click the arrow again to get out of that menu. Now I want to add some extra touches, adjust the house a little bit. For instance, I want to add like a little porch here. We'll make it line up and a curved line going down with a nice curl here. So that's probably the front door here. We'll have some stairs. And let's curve this. Well, let's give this side a little angle, a little slope. And let's make a nice curl here as well, going down, creating a little part of a roof. We can angle this a little bit. You can just tweak your house here. And let's add these little curls to this roof as well. Somehow adding to the spookiness. I don't like this curl a lot. I'm gonna redo that. Yes, and then some curls here at the top. One here and one there. Next, I'd like to add some windows and a door to our house. So let's just stay zoomed in. Let's make a new layer for those windows. I'll click the plus for a new layer. There's no need to clip it to the house since our windows and our doors, they will be inside of that bean shape anyway. So we'll go to the monoline brush And let's pick this yellow color. Gonna make the brush just a little bit smaller. Let's go for 5%. Let's start out with the door. I want it to have like an arch. So I'll go up, make an arch, and then make a straight line here so you can hold it in place to make a straight line. And then you can fill it by dragging in the color. Then I'd like to make a window on top here, and I'd like to, again, make some wonky shapes. Make this a little wonky house. And you can just use edit shape to make it look even more wonky. And then fill the shape to get a window here. Let's make another one over here. And I'll hold the pen in place to let it snap to perfect lines, and I'll use edit shape to adjust the window a little bit. And drag in the color to fill your window. Let's make another window here. I'd like to make another arch. Let's start about here, make an arch. Hold your pen in place to let it snap to a perfect arch, and then close that shape like that and fill it by dragging in the color. Finally, a little window here at the top. Holding the pen in place to create a perfect shape like that. If you want to adjust the windows a little bit, cut some parts off, what you can do is click and hold your eraser. That way the eraser will be the monoline brush. The eraser will use the current brush you're using for painting. So let's click and hold. Now it's the monoline brush. Let's make it a bit smaller, 5%. And we can clean up the windows a little bit. I want to make this one a little bit smaller. And make those corners nice and crisp. I'll remove a little bit from the underside of this one. And you can just play around with it a little bit. I want to remove some parts of the underside here, and perhaps we can make it a little bit smaller, our door. And while we're at it, we can add some details to our windows and our doors. Let's make a little cross here, for instance. And just like with the painting brush, you can hold your pen in place to make perfectly straight lines. Let's create a cross over here as well. And we'll just go over the spit that I just placed on my screen. And we'll make a little V shape here. And let's draw a line, or actually erase a line here for our door. And create a little V shape here as well. And then finally we have that very small window. Giving it a little cross like that. Now I want to add a little bit of a glow to our windows. So let's go to the layer with all the windows. Let's click it and turn on alpha lock. Now all the paint, all the pixels on this layer are locked, and we can only paint on that which we have already painted. So we can only paint on the windows and the door. Let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, we will use this orange right here. And let's set the opacity to 40%. And the size, let's go for perhaps 5. Let me check. 5 is good. Now let's go over the top parts of these windows. And now for these parts, I want to make sure that I won't be painting over this underside of that window. So a way to do that is by using the selection tool. That's the S-shaped ribbon. Let's go for the freehand selection tool. And let's just select that window, because when you have an active selection, you're only able to paint or drop in color inside of that selection. So let's go back to the brush. And now we can just paint over this area without going over that underside of that top window. And if we click the S-shaped ribbon again, and then again, we can make a new selection and select that door. And do the same thing there. So we'll go to the brush again, and go over that top part to have full control. Then click the S-shaped ribbon again, and we have a nice glow in our house. Next, we are going to make a road that is leading to our house. And I don't want that road to show up outside of our bean shape, so I'll make sure that I'll use clipping mask here. So first click layer 2, which is also clipped to the bean shape, then click plus, and then use clipping mask on this layer as well. For the brush, we will go back to the monoline brush, and for the color we will use that yellow again. And now we are going to make a zigzag shape, which is starting at the door. So let's start here, go down, down right, down left, down right, and then down. And hold your pen in place to let it snap to perfect straight lines. And then you can go to edit shape, and you can adjust your little road, moving these handles. I want this one to be, well, let's say about here. Something like this. Then click the brush, and let's do the same thing. Let's make another wonky zigzag line on the right side of that line that we just created. Just make sure that you hold your pen in place to let it snap again. And so you're able to use edit shape to have full control here over your lines to work on your road. Let's make it a bit broader over here. I think something like this looks good. Now make sure that you close the shape even though you can't really see it. Make sure you close it. Now we can just check. We can turn off clipping mask so we can see the shape, and we can see that it's not entirely closed here. So we wanted to touch the edge of the canvas so we are able to fill that shape. Now we can go back and turn clipping mask back on. Now to make these ends look a bit more pointy, we can use the eraser and go just outside of that road and remove just a little bit. So hold your pen in place and just go outside of that road to make it look a bit more pointy. Now I'd like to add that same glow that we have in the windows. I'd like to add that to the road. So we'll have to use alpha lock again. So we'll only be able to paint on the road. So click it, turn on alpha lock, and let's go back to the soft brush under airbrushing again. We'll pick this light orange, and we'll go over the middle area. Adding a light orange there. Just making these horizontal strokes. And now that we are moving towards the bottom, we can go for that darker orange and go over that underside. If you feel like the transition isn't smooth enough, then you can go to the magic wand and use Gaussian blur. Click layer and now slide to the right to adjust the blur and make it look softer. It looks as if our road is floating right now, so we'll need to do something about that. Let's go back to that black layer with the house and a rock on it, and we'll use black again, and we'll go back to the monoline brush under calligraphy. And now let's add a little bit to the rocks. I'll start just underneath that road where I know there is black already. I'll go to the left and then make a wobbly line down to add to the rock, and then go back, so that way I'm sure that I have closed my shape. Then again I'll start here, go to the right towards that edge and make a wobbly line down. And now you can fill those shapes by dragging in the color. You can zoom in a little bit if you need to make it a bit more tidy, just close to that edge of the road. Now it looks like a proper rock. So now it's time to work on the background for our house. First, let's go to our bean shaped layer and use alpha lock here so we can add a little bit of a gradient to our sky. Turn that on. We'll go back to the soft brush under airbrushing, and let's pick this color, this third color in the color palette. And we'll make the brush a bit bigger, let's say 15%, and we'll go over the underside of our bean shape, adding some light there. And since we have a low opacity brush, it's at 40%, you can glaze over multiple times, slowly building up that color, adding a nice glow there. And again, you can go to the magic wand, use Gaussian blur on the entire layer, and slide to the right to make the transition a bit more smooth. I'm at 5.5% right now. And click the wand again to get out of there. Now let's add a little moon to our scene. Let's do that on a new layer. I'll just click the plus and it'll be automatically clipped to our bean shape layer. Not that it's really necessary, since our moon shape will definitely be inside of the bean shape. For the brush, we will go to the monoline brush again, and for the color, we will use this bright yellow. And first, let's just draw a circle. Hold your pen in place to let it snap to a perfect shape, and then hold one finger on your screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. Now drag in the color, and I want to make it, well, I don't want it to be a full moon, so I want to remove a part of this moon, and we can do that by either using the eraser, or we can have even more control by adding a layer mask to our moon. Click the layer and then click mask. Now with black, we can paint on this layer mask, and whatever is black on the layer mask will get masked, so we won't be seeing that part. Let's just do it. Let's go for black. You can double tap here at the bottom to select black. And now let's draw a circle again. Hold one finger on your screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. And then you can go to edit shape and you can move it around. You have full control over what your moon looks like. Let's go for something like this. And you can just fill that black shape on the layer mask and fill it, and we have a nice looking moon here. And of course you can go to the layer with the moon on it, layer 5, go to the arrow, and while it's at uniform, you can play around with the size of the moon, move it around. Let's turn off snapping. And you can just move it around until it's at a place where you want it to be. Then click the arrow again and again, and you're ready to continue. Let's add some stars now. I'll make a new layer on top of this one. And for the brush, we will go to Luminance and use the light pen. I will keep it at same color, that bright yellow, to start adding a couple of stars. The brush opacity is at 100% and the size is at 38%. And now I just like to add some random stars. And if you press harder, you will get a bigger star. And if you press lightly, you will get a smaller star. So I'll make a variety of stars all over our sky. I think this is about enough. Now let's add some clouds. Again, we'll do that on a new layer, so click the plus. And for the brush, we will go back to the monoline brush under calligraphy. And for the color, we will use this light purple color. And let's start here, and I'll just make a wobbly shape. And on the underside, I'll make it a bit more straight. So I'll concentrate the wobbles on the top side of the cloud. Now just dragging the color to fill it. Let's add another cloud here. And I'll make the underside a bit more horizontal again without too many wobbles. Fill the shape, and finally one cloud over here. And making that underside a bit more straight again. And now I'd like to lower the opacity of these clouds a bit. You can just click the N on the layer and drag the slider, and I'll drag it to 50%. And that's very nice because now you can see those stars shining through those clouds, and I really like that effect. Next, let's add some creepy looking bushes to the bottom part of our painting, of our drawing here. Let's just create a new layer, clicking the plus. And for the brush, we will use the script brush. And the color will be black. That's this one in the color palette. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size of the brush is at 18%. Now with this brush, the harder you press on your pen, the thicker your brush stroke will be. And the less pressure you give to your pen, the thinner your line will be. So we'll start out our shape pretty thick, and as we go up, we will give less pressure so that the branch will become thinner. And I try to make them look a bit creepy, giving them some angles. These brushes, of course, you can just look at reference images of creepy bushes, creepy plants. But just make sure that the bottom part, that's thicker, and that you make the branches look thinner as they grow, as they grow. You can make another one over here. Just trying to make them look a bit angular to add to the creepy style, making them a bit pointy. And we can add some thinner ones over here, for instance. Until you have nicely filled this area over here. Once you've got that, you can move to the other side and add some creepy branches there. So again, beginning thick, giving more pressure to my pen, and then making thinner lines by using less pressure. Now, by the way, if you are enjoying my You Can Draw This video tutorials, then there is a way to support me, of course. There are multiple ways. The easiest one is to hit the like button to let me know that you are enjoying the videos. The second one is also pretty easy. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button so you will be one of the first to see the next videos. That's pretty easy as well. If that's not enough for you, if you want to support me even more, support this channel so I can keep creating these You Can Draw This videos, then you can check my Skillshare classes, of course, or check out my Patreon page, where you can find even more Procreate fully narrated video tutorials ranging from beginner level to more advanced levels. But in any case, I always enjoy seeing your results, seeing your tutorial results, and hearing your thoughts, checking the comments. So just let me know if you are enjoying the videos. I definitely read everything. I'm not always able to reply to everything, to all the comments, but I definitely read everything. And I really appreciate it. I think we have enough creepy branches here. I just want to add a final touch. I want to add some bats to the image because they look pretty creepy in creepy, spooky images, right? Now I have some special bats brushes. I have shared them, I think it was last year. I have shared them with my patrons. They can all download them, those bats brushes. I will give you one free bat brush, which you can download through the link in the description, so you can add bats to your spooky illustration as well. Here I have my bats brushes. Let's use bat number 2 first. I'll put it on a separate layer, so click the plus for a new layer, then just drop in a bat, and you can use the arrow, the move tool, to rotate your bat and place it where you want it. You can also make it a bit smaller. And then once it's in the place where you want it to be, you can create a new layer and drop in another bat. Again, I'll go to the move tool. You can also flip it horizontally to get some variation. Place one here. And I'll also use some other bats. Bat number 1, he wants to join the party as well. And just be sure to make a new layer for every bat. If they want to have their own layer, I'll use bat 3 as well, because that way you can use the move tool on that single bat and play around with the placement, flip it horizontally without touching the other bats. Let's add one more. I'll make a new layer. add another bat number 2. Use the move tool. And I think that's a nice place for this little guy. And once you have placed all the bats, you can just merge the layers with the bats just to keep things organized. And there you have your own spooky scene. I hope you have enjoyed following this spooky tutorial. If you did, then do be sure to check out my other You Can Draw This videos as well. If you haven't already, there's actually a playlist with all the You Can Draw This videos. So you can always check out if you haven't missed anything. Or perhaps you'll like these 2 videos over here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.